we're sons and daughters of a king. Yet instead of living like the princes and the princesses that we really are, we live like paupers. Because of the orphan spirit that permeates us, we believe that there's never enough. Never enough time, never enough margin, never enough support, never enough resources. We buy into that lie that we can't trust God's love and we can't trust His provision. We believe that we're on our own, that if we have to depend on God, that we're going to go without. So we've got to make things happen for ourselves. And we've got to strive and struggle to get what we can for ourselves. Further, when we see somebody else receive something, a blessing, something good, then we believe that takes away from the provision that could be ours, that someone else's blessing costs us our own. And if that's the life that we're living, then we're living with a poverty mindset. And Chris Valentin, in his book, Poverty, Riches, and Wealth, explains that all too often we live just like the prodigal son that we read about in Luke 15 in the Bible. And as that story goes, the rich farmer, the farmer's youngest son, actually chose to receive his inheritance early. And he journeyed from home to seek life for himself, to find life, and to really sow his oats. And in doing so, he squandered all of his inheritance. So he returned home with nothing. And upon his return home, his father was happy to see him, and he actually celebrated him, even though he had squandered his inheritance. And he threw him this big celebration with a fattened calf as the feast. And the older brother, who had chosen to stay behind and work on the farm all this time for his father, didn't participate in the celebration because he expressed his jealousy and his anger to his dad about why would you celebrate my younger brother when I'm the one that chose to be responsible, stay home and slave away on the farm, and he went off and lived life and squandered his inheritance. Well, his dad quickly rebutted him and offered him a very different perspective of the situation, and he said to him, well, I give him the fattened calf in celebration, but you own the farm. And as Chris explains, we do the same thing. We're so often upset about what we have to sacrifice for God and what we're having to do for Him, and that we aren't being celebrated for our work and our effort, yet we're so deceived. We don't understand just how much our daddy loves us, and we don't understand our true inheritance. Our daddy owns the farm, so we own the farm too. And we don't seem to understand that when we have a poverty mindset, because that poverty mindset blocks truth for us. We're too busy feeling like servants, like it's never enough, like we're in lack and scarcity all the time, because the poverty mindset constantly feeds us lies like these. It tells us that we have to keep working so hard to get half of what everybody else has. Or I can only have this much because that's what I'm used to having. But what I really want and what I really need is not available to me. So I'm going to have to go without. Or in order to have that thing that I want, I'm going to have to sacrifice something else. Or if I see a lack somewhere in my life, I'm going to have to figure out how to fill that gap myself rather than really trusting God to fill my gap with His goodness. Or I have to keep doing this thing in order to keep paying my bills, even though I resent it or I hate it, and I don't even feel called to it or passionate about it anymore. It's that whole have to thing that I'm stuck. They get everything that they want and I don't get to. And so we feel the envy and the jealousy about others. And we tell ourselves that, well, they're not even as good a person as we are either. So it makes it even worse. Or I have to hang on to this partner or this person in this position at work or in this relationship because I won't be able to find the person that I really want, or there won't be anything else available to me and I'll have to go without. Or I can't really have what I really want with time, wealth, or true meaning and purpose in life. So at least I'll buy myself this, or I'll feed myself with this, which is really counterfeit for what we really want. But we tell ourselves we deserve it as hard as we work. So we may have fallen to these poverty minds, prey to these poverty mindsets because of disappointment or pain or lack in our lives that has caused us to believe these lies about God. Or we may have learned it from our parents. But no matter how these things started, we've got to now decide that we're going to break the strongholds in our lives, break those poverty mindset strongholds. And we've got to come to understand what it really means and how to live in the truth of the revelation of our true identity. Because living in our true identity enables us to live as sons and daughters, as victors, not victims, as the wealthy sons and daughters, not the slaves and the paupers stuck in lack and hopelessness and despair. And we've also got to begin to change those beliefs that we have, reprogram our thoughts with the truth. And to do that, we've got to commit to the daily discipline of reprogramming our minds. We can't just wait until we feel like it or until we believe it. We've got to begin to meditate on the truth of God's word and speak it out loud until our belief lines up with that truth. So let me ask you, what are you speaking into your life? What are you focusing your thoughts on every day that you're creating, cultivating in your life? And if you really begin to believe that Jesus says that you can have what you believe for and you can have what you say, because he does say that, would you change what you're thinking? Would you change the words that you speak into your life every day? Well, Jesus spoke only what he heard the Father say. He spoke only his truth. And that's what empowered the miracles and the abundance in and all around him. Jesus didn't respond out of a need or a lack or a scarcity, or out of a have to or an expectation. He responded to the voice of his Father. He responded to his Father's love. He understood God's perfect love and provision, and he trusted it rather than buying into fear and scarcity. And we've got to follow his lead and do the same in our own lives. Finally, I want you to answer this question for yourself. How would you begin to think, feel, and live differently if you live from the truth that you are wealthy? That you are a son or a daughter of a king, that there is always enough, that your daddy owns the farm, that God is pouring out abundant provision in your life, but your beliefs and your words are blocking that from becoming your reality, because that's the truth. Will you begin to create a shift in your poverty mindset and invite God to speak to you personally and specifically about your wealth in him and about his love for you as his son or his daughter? Then wholeheartedly pursue and stay open to hearing his truth about that. If you're really ready to get serious about shifting your poverty mindset and stepping into your true identity, living the life of freedom and fullness that you were intended to live, that's available to you, then I'd love to help you do that. You can email me at conniej@arisecounselingandcoaching.com, and I'd love to coach you to soar in a life that you love.